Welcome into another edition of Late Night Baseball. That's Parker. I'm Anthony. We're two dudes here every week late into the night talking baseball. If you have never heard of this show or have never joined us here at Late Night Baseball, make sure you're following us on YouTube, like the videos, subscribe so you get notifications every short or every video that we have. We're here weekly, but we do post our shorts throughout the week. So whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your audio stuff, make sure you're following us, leaving reviews, liking what we do, because you know what? We're really just here for you, Parker. Well, we're here for them. We're here for the people. People need their baseball.
I certainly need my baseball, man. I don't know what I would do without this show during the off season. I mean, we got a lot to talk about today, weirdly enough, even though it is an off-season pod. We've got, MLB show cover drop. We've got our NL Central preview, a couple little moves that I think are actually pretty influential. Yeah, I'm excited. Let's get into it, dude.
Yeah, for sure. The first thing off the bat is MLB the Show, like they do at the beginning of each and every year, announces their cover athlete. In this case, athletes. Now, folks,
this is the first time it's ever been more than one.
First time it's ever been more than one. And why, you may ask? It's because it is 20 years this year of MLB the Show. And they announced that 3 players are going to be on the cover. That is Paul Skeens, Gunnar Henderson, Ellie De La Cruz. Talk about some crazy star power on this cover, Parker.
Yeah, this is awesome. I think that the number one thing that baseball fans always love to crap all over MLB about is you're not marketing your talent enough. We saw this with Mike Trout for years, that they weren't marketing their superstars enough. And I do think that Mike Trout, we kind of missed the boat on. But if you are trying to tell me now that guys like Bobby Witt, guys like Aaron Judge, Shohei, and now Paul Skeens, Ellie De La Cruz, like these guys are getting marketed. They show up on TV and people know who Paul Skeens is. Thank you so much to Livy Dunn for making baseball as popular as it is right now. I genuinely think she's the closest thing baseball has to like Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
But I think that it is super, super beneficial for the sport as a whole to get these cool young star power celebrities on the cover. And MLB the Show typically is somebody that you can rely on to be at the forefront of marketing young stars. Look at the last couple covers. I mean, we've had Jazz Chisholm. Shohei was on the cover a couple years ago. Fernando Tatis Jr. after his one breakout season, right on the cover of MLB The Show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun one. This game for 20 years, first off, for those of you who don't know, Parker and I are all about MLB The Show, obviously. We play it. We get all into the modes. And I am particularly excited about Diamond Dynasty. I know you are too, Parker. Why don't you tell the people that don't know what Diamond Dynasty is?
Okay, so Diamond Dynasty is MLB The Show's version of Madden Ultimate Team. And if you don't know play Madden, then it is MLB The Show's version of a game where your team is crap. Like you start off with a team full of silver players. And by silver players, I mean like the guy on your bench spot on your favorite team's roster. And that's your entire roster. And then you go and you do challenges and you play games and stuff like that. And you try to earn packs of cards, quote unquote cards of players that you can then put onto your team, and you build your team that way. Prior to the last 2 seasons, MLB The Show was lauded as being one of the only ways that you could play this ultimate team style. It's called Ultimate Team because that's what Madden and FIFA call it. This ultimate team style game while spending next to, if not $0 on the game. Like typically those modes are money pits. You're constantly having to spend money to buy packs. MLB The Show famously gives you a ton of packs right out the gate. And then they continuously just find reasons to give you packs, and you can literally play the game. And I have personally gotten every single core card in the game. So every active player in a big league roster for free the last 2 years. Totally. I play way too much of the game, but it's totally doable. These past couple years have been really hard to do that because of a system that they came up with called sets and seasons. Without making this into an MLB The Show podcast, I'll just say that they were devaluing cards after a certain amount of time. You would earn them. They would be good for about 2 months. And then they would start the cards over from like basically 0, and you would have to re-earn all the same players you had earned over the last couple months. Super unpopular model. It was unpopular the first year they did it. They adjusted it so that the cards were valuable for longer in the second year of the model. Everybody still hated it. So this year they've literally come out and said sets and seasons are gone. Your cards are going to be playable for the entire season. And everybody's super excited about it. A couple little rumors I actually just saw right before we started recording too. On the cover, they have the LSU logo next to Paul Skeen's name. And if they license the logo for the cover of the game, could they have licensed the likeness for LSU and other, maybe the top 10 programs in college baseball, to flesh out the Road to the Show mode so that you can play a few games of college ball? Yeah. Just a little like conjecture. We don't know, but it seems cool.
That does seem cool. I mean, so they're building out. Obviously, every year they put more time into all their modes, including Road to the Show franchise. I'm personally a franchise guy. I'm the nerd. I'm the baseball nerd that likes to build a team, make trades, look at my contracts and budgets. But my issue, Parker, is if I put so much time into building this damn franchise, I can't keep it going year to year because there's no year to year saves. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, I hope that that's something that gets put in the game. Actually, funny you say that. Over the last couple days, pretty viral on Twitter, and I know you're not on socials a lot these days, but pretty viral on Twitter has been a screenshot of a guy he played the Boston Red Sox until 2062 or something like that. He won 30 World Series. But the cool part about MLB The Show is, and I didn't know this until I saw this post, if you keep offering ludicrous money to literally senior citizen baseball players, they will continue to come back. So, for instance, Mike Trout played until he was 72 in this guy's franchise. But then, like, the best player of all time in this guy's franchise, the best pitcher of all time in this guy's franchise was Brian Bayo on the Red Sox. He had like 890 wins because he pitched until he was in his 70s. Which is hilarious.
Julio Franco did times.
Oh my
3.
God, Julio Franco. That's a callback. Yeah, dude played until he was 100. I mean, he's like awesome. The Justin Verlander.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Well, that's gonna be fun as that comes out, more details are released. Parker and I
have one more thing on MLB The Show, which might be the biggest thing for even just the casual player. If you have felt that MLB The Show was behind the times in terms of like advancement of graphics and gameplay, this game is the first MLB The Show since the release of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X that is guaranteed to only be playable on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch, but Nintendo Switch streams the game. So what am I getting at? This is going to be the most graphic fidelity that we've ever seen out of MLB The Show, because previously making the game available on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 was keeping the graphics low enough that everybody could play against each other on the same console or on different consoles. Because we're only on current gen consoles now, you should see I'll say a significant expect a spectacular upgrade in graphics for this upcoming MLB The Show, because if PGA Tour 2K series is any indication, the year that they went current gen consoles only on this current generation of consoles it looked like you were watching a broadcast of the Masters. Like, it was beautiful compared to the year prior. So really hoping we get that out of MLB The Show.
Heck yeah, man. That'll be great. I'm excited for that first gameplay trailer. We'll see some of that. And I'll tell you what, Parker, I'll end it with this. 20 years of MLB The Show. The first MLB The Show game was MLB The Show 06. Who was on the cover?
Poppy.
Bingo, Big Poppy, yeah. David Ortiz himself. And
David Ortiz was on 06, and then Dustin Pedroia was it 09 or 10? He won the MVP.
I think it was 09.
09, because he won the MVP in 08.
And I'll tell you what, I remember playing MLB The Show 06 on my damn PSP. Yep. PSP.
I remember playing MLB The Show 06. Maybe it wasn't 06. No, it was, because it had Poppy on the cover. And I remember playing Red Sox versus Yankees, and I was playing against Randy Johnson on the Yankees.
Wow. Talk about, wow. That's a blast from the past.
That's a jersey I owned. I owned a Randy Johnson on the Yankees jersey because I was such a massive Randy Johnson fan. I always have been such a huge Randy Johnson fan. I love him.
I'm throwing this out right now. This is going to be a future podcast episode. Don't know when we're going to do it, but we're going to do an episode where it's our top 10 guys you forgot played for that team. We're doing
Yeah.
that.
We
That'd
could do
be
that.
fun.
That'd be great. I mean, you could almost put Albert Pujols on the Angels on that.
I mean, right? Yeah, totally. That would be so fun. Well, I'll table that, but that'll be fun. We'll be tracking MLB the Show the next couple months or two as it releases middle of March here. But Parker, one of the bigger baseball stories we got over the last week was that the automatic ball strike system (ABS) is gonna be in spring training. We're going to spring training. We're going to see it in action the beginning of March. ABS is going to be tested in spring training after being tested in the minors for the last few seasons now.
Uh-oh,
here it comes.
This is going to be so weird for me to say because I was a guy who didn't want instant replay. I was a guy who didn't want any of this stuff that took the human element out of the game. But I love the idea of ABS in Major League Baseball. Totally. I genuinely love it, especially when we've seen the benefit of automating the pace of play. We've seen the benefit of the pitch clock and how it's made the game more consumable. I'm telling you right now, I have talked to non-baseball fans in my life. Now I was younger and I was talking to like high schoolers and stuff like that and college kids. I have talked to people that talk about the human element of balls and strikes to be something that is a barrier to their entry. We just saw, I mean, if you watch playoff football in this past year, we saw the human element potentially, depending on how you feel about it, cost the Buffalo Bills a game in which they would have gone to the Super Bowl. The human element is a part of sports, but I think it's the part of sports that I think everybody is just a little bit annoyed at, right? It always feels like it benefits the other team more than your team. Like, because you're willing to take the W's when they come your way, but nobody keeps those in head when your team is the one getting screwed. I think everybody would just like to see the game called fairly. So if we can prove this works, I think it's a net positive for the game.
You know what? I'll tell you, I agree with you. I will say that logic of like, oh, it's always screwing over my team. That's just sport fan logic. Like the same logic that's like Joe Buck hates my team every time he's broadcasting my team.
Everybody needs to stop shitting on Joe Buck. All right.
Like, I know.
Let's see. How many minutes into this recording are we? I think I can swear now and YouTube won't hate us. Fucking everybody needs to stop shitting on Joe Buck. Think back to every single big baseball moment in your entire life. I almost guarantee you it was Joe Buck's voice that made that call.
8.5 times out of 10. Yes.
Grounded back to folk. Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions. Lives in my brain forever. And that's Joe Buck's voice. And there's so many more that I could talk about. He does not make the perfect call every time, but he's the voice of excitement to me.
And he gets so much unnecessary shit. But I digress. Anyway, so
he doesn't give a fuck about that shit, by the way. He's gone on podcasts before, but he literally says, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care.
No, as he should. He's the best in the business, hands down. So automatic balls and strikes here, Parker. Here's what's interesting about it. So what fans can expect in spring training is each team during these games. Well, first off, it'll appear in about 60% of spring training games, and teams will have 2 challenges per game to use, and if they challenge and they're successful, they keep the challenge, much like in football. Now,
I think that, in my opinion, that's the best implementation of this. In my opinion.
Oh, totally. Now, here's the interesting thing about this that I think I find the most fascinating that could actually have impact on the game. Now, the way that they're doing this is all players need to be physically measured by mid-February so that it registers with the ABS system. And what happens is, if you think about the actual strike zone. Now, for a human strike zone, there was a report that was actually pushed out to all the players that went over this. The human strike zone, more than anything, is more of an oval, whereas this ABS system is like you're playing a video game and they have the square there, the rectangle. That's the ABS system. So a pitcher more likely get a call on the corner with an ABS system. Maybe the batter gets a favorable ball call up and low in the zone. It will change the way balls and strikes are called if that system is being used for that.
I think that this changes the bottom of the strike zone and the outside part of the plate more than anything. And I don't think that's a hot take or anything, but we're going to
No.
see guys like Aaron Judge, Aaron Judge genuinely has a very good understanding of the strike zone. And we see him strike out on pitches low in the strikes and like outside of the strike zone quite a bit because the guy is 6'6" or whatever he is.
Yeah.
I think guys like him are going to benefit incredibly. And imagine a world where you're forced to pitch to Aaron Judge. Like you are forced to throw the ball in the strike zone. And we're going to see guys who can manipulate run more than manipulate verticality, I think come more into prominence in terms of pitching, because I think the upper part of the strike zone is really just dictated on whether you can induce a swing or not, right? Like nobody's trying to get a called strike in the upper part of the zone.
Right.
But the bottom part of the zone, you're trying to get called strikes there all game. So yeah, no, I think this is a massive, massive change. And I think the challenge system is a perfect way of implementing it. And I think that's why the umpires union has not been great in terms of like, has not been super approving of it, but they're willing to let this step go because it is a check. Like it is a check to their authority in a certain way, but giving a certain bit of amount of challenges. I don't even know if 2 challenges is enough. Maybe 3, 4, up to 5. I could even say truly challenges that truly can alter the game in that way. Yeah, I think that's why they're okay with it. I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah, one of the things they did put in this report, actually, The Athletic has a great article on this by Evan Drelich. He does a great job of breaking this down, and he actually pulled the size of the plate in square inches. Now, this is fascinating because the way that it works, we all know in baseball, is
the strike zone is a 3-dimensional object.
Exactly, and when you are deep into a count or have an 0-2 count, that strike zone goes from this to this, and it shrinks with a lot of umpires. So what they did is they ran the square inches of that, and in a 3-0 count, the area of the strike zone is about 550 square inches. But when an umpire has a player in a 1-2 count or an 0-2 count, that goes down to 412 square inches, whereas the ABS system is always at 443 square inches for every count.
I love that. I thought it was hilarious reading that article and realizing that the umpire was actively, like subconsciously, not actively, subconsciously choosing to side with the guy with the weapon standing right next to him. Like I love he's siding with the batter who has a club in hand.
That's funny. I didn't do that. Did not cross my mind, but yes, that's true.
It is funny though. If the strike zone's shrinking into 0-2 and 1-2 counts, there's a lot of pitchers that are going to love this ABS system, especially to bring the guy back up. And we're going to talk about it more because we're doing our NL Central preview here in a little bit. Paul Skeens. This is a guy. ABS has been in AA and AAA for a while now. Paul Skeens had something like above an 80% success rate on his ABS challenges, and he would just throw a pitch and he'd tap his head and call for the challenge and get it like most of the time, because he's so good. Like he knows the strike zone, he knows how to hit his spots, and I just can't wait. Like imagine Paul Skeens with an even bigger advantage.
Oh yeah, 100%. It'll be fun to watch. Like I said, for those of you who maybe haven't heard yet, Parker and I will be down in spring training March 4th through 7th. We're going to be at 4 games. Hopefully we catch this at all those games. And this is a test, right? In spring training. If it goes well, they're going to be putting this in the regular season games as soon as 2026. So that's what you can expect.
Typically, once they start testing stuff in spring training, this is the final step. Like once you start making big league players play with it and gauging their reaction to it, this is the next step into actually implementing.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Parker, we are going to continue on with our division previews every week for the next 5 weeks or so left. We're going to be previewing each division in baseball. We're going to be giving our standing predictions and some bold predictions for each division. And this week, we're traveling to the NL Central. And I'll tell you what, Parker, I think we both agree. This is not one of the stronger divisions, but I really struggled with coming up with standings for this one with bold predictions because no one is really running away with this thing in my brain. It's just anything.
I think someone's running away with it. But
here we go.
2 through
Okay.
5, I think, are very, very up to whoever.
Oh, I'm so interested. All right, so let's do this. So what we've been doing with these is we've been going team by team and kind of getting a
Mhm.
lay of the land. So why don't I start? I want to go alphabetical order.
I
Here,
was
so
just gonna say, let's do alphabetical so we don't give
Yeah.
away our rankings.
Yeah, so let's start with the Brewers, Parker. When you think of the Brewers and what they did last year, what are you expecting in 2025?
Not a ton. I'm not expecting a ton. But I will say that there are some bright spots on this team. I mean, there's Jackson Churio. I always forget which Contreras is which. William, I believe, is on the Brewers.
William,
yeah, Williams on the Brewers. And I think Williams genuinely one of the better catchers in all of baseball.
Yeah.
But we saw just actually, was it yes? Did they sign Ha-Seong Kim? Where did Ha-Seong Kim just go?
He went to the Rays.
Oh yeah,
How
he went
about
to the
that?
Rays. That's right. He was on the Brewers at some point, and then he went to the Padres. Yeah, I don't know why I still associate him with the Brewers.
No, he was signed from the Padres. He was on the Padres out of Japan. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what I thought, but either way, Colton Wong is who I had him confused with. I'm sorry, everybody.
Bingo.
Yeah. So anyway, so the Brewers, there are some bright spots on that team. They're not particularly going to be that competitive. I think that their rotation is a little better than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
But not inspired. That's the thing, though, with the Brewers, and this has happened a couple years now, where it's like, oh, this team doesn't on paper seem like they are going to run away with it. But then last year they win the division by 10 games. Like,
I mean, they are, I describe them every year as the Rays of the National League, because that's what they are, right? Like, they do a lot
exactly
with a little.
Yeah.
And I think your point of them being leading the division 10 games, mind you, though, I tend to think part of that was them, of course, but 60% of it was the other teams underperforming. Like, they were 10 games ahead, winning 93 games. I mean,
yeah, you know,
I mean, I think there's something to be said about them doing more with less, but I think you're right on one point. The rotation is definitely stronger than people give credit for. But when I look at kind of what they did over this offseason, not much of anything, right? I mean, they lost Willie Adames, which honestly is a huge loss.
Huge loss.
Like that. It just is. And you look at what they added, not much. Nestor Cortez, but not much.
There's Nestor. There is Nestor. Now, every time I look at their lineup, and I'm looking at it right now, I just pulled it up on Roster Resource on Fangraphs. If you don't troll around on Roster Resource, you've got to. Even somebody like me who isn't a Fangraphs savant like Anthony is, got to go into Roster Resource. Every time I look at their lineup, I'm always surprised. I mean, this lineup is not nothing. It's Jackson Churio, Christian Yelich, William Contreras. Those are big guys. Rhys Hoskins, Sal Frelick. Even, you want it, Bryce Terang. Like, these are big league ball players and solidly big league ball players that would make other teams better if they were there. And they're all young. Every single one of them, except maybe Christian Yelich, is young. Rhys is 31. That's the next oldest person.
Yeah, I think you're right there. The lineup is, you look at that top three. I think when you're sporting Churio, Yelich, and Contreras, you're in a good spot. I think the X factor here for them, because they have some young guys, a couple X factors. Yelich needs to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Yelich needs to actually play baseball.
He needs to play baseball. And last couple of years, he's shown some sparks and had some better numbers. If he can carry that over, awesome. But then X factor 2 is Garrett Mitchell. Young guy. It's going to be his first full season. He is a guy that if he can basically be a breakout player for the Brewers, then I think we're talking about something unique here.
I think, interestingly enough, I think this is the first year this has been the case, but Roster Resource has Christian Yelich solidly designated as a DH. And I think that's going to be good for him. Not playing the field. This is weird and it's dumb and it doesn't have any grounding in any sort of truth or numbers or anything I typically source my takes off of. But Christian Yelich as a DH, to me, profiles like a JD Martinez. Like a guy who has pop, a guy who's going to make his money hitting doubles. He's faster than a JD Martinez, but that same like dedicated. The thing that makes me think him is comparable build. I think the height and everything like that, the swings to me look a little similar, but really it's the obsession with the game. Like Christian Yelich is one of those guys that loves the game of baseball. He's got 11 years of service time. He's 33 years old. He knows he still has some good baseball left in him. And if he's going to be told this year, you're a designated hitter, I have zero doubt in my mind that Christian Yelich is the kind of guy that would have a problem with, like, that he wouldn't have. I don't think he will have a problem with going to the cage between at bats, truly fulfilling that DH clubhouse guy, leadership veteran role that a lot of teams don't have, but a guy who's been with the Brewers for a long time now, since 2018, and he's just in the bloodstream of that fan base and in that clubhouse. And I think he's going to do a great job in that role.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it also gets to the point of, I feel like for so many years, the DH spot is always seen as, I'm going to put my terrible defender who can't run, who can hit, 35, 40 bombs in that spot. But I'm going to tell you what, these teams now, and rightfully so, use the DH spot as someone who can get on base. And really, that's all that matters. And when you look at Christian Yelich, he is an on-base machine. In 2024, he had a 406 on-base percentage. That's crazy.
So good. Yeah.
So good. So if he's doing that, he can hit 11, 14, 15 homers. If you're getting on base, that's all the Brewers should need out of Yelich, out of a 3 DH spot or a second spot DH spot.
The numbers for me that I always want to look at for a guy like Christian Yelich is doubles, because I think the double is like, I know people talk about him more often. I feel like I hear them talked about more often these days than we're accustomed to. But I think the double, it might be the single most productive hit in Major League Baseball if I were to like go off of vibes alone. Because someone smacks a double, like if someone hits a double to lead off the inning, you're like, we are cooking. We're good. Someone hits a home run to lead off the inning. People make the joke that home runs are rally killers. They kind of feel that way as a fan when you're watching a game. But when your leadoff hitter hits a double, you're like, all right, we're good. We're ready to go. Like someone, a bloop and a blast, and here we are. It's a 3-run inning. I think that a guy that Christian Yelich, who over the course of his career has averaged 34 doubles every 162 games, that's the guy that I think should be playing in the DH position for you. I think that that's the perfect role for him.
That's an interesting point when you think about the double. I mean, it really, to me, comes back to the whole point of, in the game of baseball, you want to put the other team on their toes. Okay. You're not going to do that by the true outcomes. You're going to do that by putting the ball in play and putting men on base and making them work hard. That is what this is. The double does that, right? The double puts pressure on the team immediately.
Exactly. And you know what? Look, I know this is stupid, and I know that it doesn't apply to Major League Baseball in any sense, but I play men's league baseball every Sunday. And I'll tell you, what leads to more runs for the opposing team more often when I'm playing defense? Somebody hits an extra base hit or gets on base early in the inning and finds himself in scoring position or on third, and then you have to change defensive alignments to accommodate. You need to move people around the diamond to take gambles to try to cut down a run. And when somebody's standing on second, you have now put so much pressure on the defense that there are things that can happen that would not happen if you hit a home run with the first batter of the inning. I genuinely believe that the double is the single most productive hit that you can get out of, like, at least out of the leadoff position. So I don't know. This is why Christian Yelich to me is always going to be a threat. This is why it doesn't matter if he hits, like you said, 11, 19, and 14 home runs over his last 3 seasons, 9 home runs the year before, 12 home runs the year before. Basically since 2019, he's been a 15-ish homer guy. I think that he's still a massive threat when it comes to hitting in this lineup.
Well, they're also paying him $26 million, so he better be something.
Yeah, he better be. But honestly, $26 million is a bargain these days. What are you talking about?
Yeah, maybe you're right. Which is
maybe not
sad.
for a 33-year-old, but
that's true. That's true. All right, let's move on to the Cardinals, Parker. I'll say this about the Cardinals. I'm gonna not go into what I wanted, my little vent for the Cardinals, because they're in one of my bold predictions. So I'll try to have a little self-control here. But they are really in a unique spot because this franchise is on the downturn, seemingly. They're in a transition period. John Mazalik is stepping aside, their GM, at the end of this year. Chaim Bloom is in the wings, ready to take over.
That's my
I
guy.
know you're. I know we love Chaim, right? We're big Chaim fans here. We're a pro Chaim show. But what I'll tell you though is, I don't know that I'm expecting anything from this team in a year of transition. Just nothing. Point blank.
For this year, no. I think you're absolutely on the nose with that. This is so with the same exact token that I took with the Brewers, where I said, "Wow, I looked at the lineup and I'm always surprised every time I look at it." The opposite just happened when I went to the roster resource page of the Cardinals, because, and I know that sounds like I'm throwing shade. I'm not. But when I think of the Cardinals, I think about these lineups that can carry water. Like I think about a Paul Goldschmidt lineup with a Nolan Arenado who's not 33, almost 34 years old. You know, I think about lineups that can actually do some stuff offensively. But when I pulled up this roster, okay, Mason Wynn. All right, here we go. Alec Burleson, Wilson Contreras. I think, okay. As a catcher, I think he maybe passed his offensive prime. Brendan Donovan, old Nolan Arenado, Lars Nootbaar, who I think he set a very high bar for himself when he played for Team Japan in the WBC and just hasn't quite been the guy in Major League Baseball that we thought he would be after that. Jordan
Delicious,
Walker,
by the way. Love a good Noot
the
bar.
Nudie Bar, man. My cat's name is Newt, Noot. So every time I see Lars Nootbaar, I'm like, Jordan Walker. Genuinely, I think there's a ton of upside to this guy. He's only 22. This will be his age 23 season here coming up. Massive upside for him. I think he's almost like an Ellie De La Cruz type talent. He just needs to find his place. Evan Herrera, Victor Scott, like that's the rest of that lineup. So to me, it's like, there's not much going on here. However, I do have good news for Cardinals fans. I'm telling you this from a position of statistically backed up fact. Chaim Bloom is the only reason that the Boston Red Sox currently have 2 players in the top 10 prospects in Major League Baseball. He is the only reason they have, I don't remember, however, 3, 4, maybe even 5 players in the top 100 prospects, depending on how you look at it. Right now, I refuse to acknowledge Roki Sasaki as the number 1 prospect in baseball. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Right now, the actual number 1 prospect in baseball is Roman Anthony, drafted by Chaim Bloom. Then we've got guys like Christian Campbell, drafted to get by Chaim Bloom. All of these guys in the Red Sox system are only there because of Chaim Bloom. I don't think he should have been fired. I still think he should have just been given an open blank check and told, now you've done the draft thing, sign the free agents. Yeah. What I'm getting at here is, if I could handpick an executive in all of Major League Baseball, besides Andrew Friedman, I would probably want Chaim Bloom to head up a rebuild. And you know what? I hope it doesn't happen to him in St. Louis like it happened in Boston, where he builds the entire farm system up to be incredible and then gets kicked to the curb. But genuinely, Cardinals fans, this may not be your season. You may not have a season that you get to look forward to for 2, 3, 4 years. But I promise you, from experience, Chaim Bloom is working for your franchise, and he works hard and he works well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. It's a great person, right person at the right time. I just do think, this franchise has a history of winning, and they've been doing it for a while. And this may be the first year that we start to see a trend in the other direction. Again, like you said, Parker, hopefully not long. But when you look at this lineup, there's certainly a lot to be desired. Even the pitching, too. I mean, the front of the rotation, or the top 3 in the rotation right now, Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Miles Michaelis is just not really inspiring to me. They went the older guy group last year with Lance Lynn and Kirk Gibson, and that didn't work out. It's just, they're just trying to really hold this thing together in the next few years, I think, and trying to see what they get out of a guy like a Jordan Walker, because you also need to know what you're going to get out of a Jordan Walker or a Mason Wynn. You need to know right now what those guys are going to do for you in the next 2 to 3 years.
I'm going to read you off some ages real quick, because I agree with your point. I'm going to read you 5 ages: 35, 32, 36, 34, and 27. Ooh. Those are the age seasons of the starting 5 pitchers for the Cardinals. Oh boy. Oh man, there's not much to look forward to in that rotation.
Goodness. Do you want, I'll This is hilarious. I'm gonna get out my calculator. Hold on, nerd alert. Let me see here. I'm gonna one up you on that because you just said that was
Giving me
all
the
their
average age.
Oh, not even that. No, not even that. I'm gonna give you. Let me do the math. Hold on. Let me do the math. This is really important. I really want to do this. 12.5, 7,
Math podcast.
5 plus
Math podcast.
and
Late night
guess,
math.
hold on. Yeah, late night math. This is a guesstimation, but guess how much 4 of 5 of those guys are? $62 million.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so much money. That's so much
God.
money.
I know.
Sonny Gray's good, man. Sonny Gray's good. Eric Fetty, I think, is also very good. Eric Fetty could fuck around and win a Cy Young in the next
He could.
year. He could just choose to piece it all together and win a Cy Young this next year, and it'd be like, oh, look, it's another. In my head, he's around the same. It's weird because they both came from the White Sox, but Eric Fetty to me occupies the same space as like a. Oh God, he's on the Padres. I'm so stupid. I forget his name. Came from the White Sox. Your favorite player of all time,
Dylan Cease.
Dylan Cease. In my head, he occupies that same space. Super effective, right-hander, and could just fuck around and win a Cy Young if he wants to. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, genuinely, Eric Fetty, I think, has upside. He's 32 years old, so like you're at his peak right now as we speak. So enjoy what you get out of him. But I think Sonny Gray will have a pretty good season. Every time I hear Sonny Gray's name, I'm like, yeah, he's still pitching.
Right. He just seems to be the guy that is never aging and is always around, which is there's always one.
His name's Sonny, so he always feels like he's super young to me.
Well, yeah. Anytime I hear him, I also think of Big Daddy. Sonny from Big Daddy. Prime film. Great family film. Great family film.
Great family film. Our audience, I don't think has any fucking clue what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. I grew up watching Big Daddy. Every time if I'm in the supermarket and I drop a can, I'll just be like, dented cans are half price. Microsoft went down 3 points. And I've said it in the supermarket for 20 plus years. Never once has someone laughed at it.
Wow. That is so disappointing. That is so disappointing. Yeah. You start to realize you're getting older.
Yeah, yeah, man. Well, I mean, yeah. What did I look at? I saw something the other day where, Saquon Barkley's a year and a half younger than me. Don't feel great about that.
How about this? Here's one that struck me the other day. Declan Doyle, the new offensive coordinator for the Bears, is 28 years old.
Oh, awesome. So he's younger than me too. I'm really past my prime, man. I haven't even hit 30.
I forget you haven't hit 30. Holy crap.
I'm 29.
That's right.
I turned 29 in November. So I turned 30 this upcoming November. This is my age 29 baseball season.
Wow. Well, I'm in my age 31 season and I'm worthless right now. So in baseball years, I'm a worthless AARP son of a bitch.
You're on like that $35 million contract that every fan just wants to be over.
Oh shit. Okay. Cardinals. We'll revisit the Cardinals because I have a bold prediction, a big one for them.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm excited to share this one. People aren't going to like it, but I'm just dropping truth bombs here tonight. Cubs. Okay, I'm going to start with the Cubs here. I'm the hometown guy. I'm not, just for those of you who know, obviously you probably know I'm a White Sox fan, folks. I'm not a Cubs hater. I'm not one of those fans. I used to be a Cubs fan. I have a special place in my heart for the Cubs. I want them to succeed, just not at the expense of the White Sox. This team for the last couple years has been that team when you look at how ownership has spent and how Jed Hoyer, Carter Hawkins has built this team out, have always seemed to kind of thread the needle, never going all the way in when they probably should have because they had the money to do it. But now finally this year, things are starting to cook, right? You have a Kyle Tucker. You have, as I pulled up the page here because I didn't even get to their page yet. I'm so excited to talk about them. You have guys like Kyle Tucker. You have guys they traded for Ryan Presley from Houston Astros.
Huge. That just happened in the last couple days.
Huge acquisition. They're finally, I think, starting to get a fire under their ass, and this could be the year that they separate themselves from the pack. Maybe. Big maybe.
Yes. I agree with you. When you look at this Cubs lineup, when you talk about guys like Ian Happ, Kyle Tucker is like, if I had to pick an outfield based off of just National League players, Kyle Tucker's playing right field for me, man. And that's with Juan Soto in the league.
Yeah.
Seiya Suzuki's there. Michael Busch, good. Dansby Swanson. You will not find a better defensive shortstop, and then the guy can hit too. Nico Horner, one of the most underappreciated second basemen in all of baseball. Only his age 28 season, by the way, so it's still up from here for him. PCR, Pete Crow Armstrong, to me, is another one of those guys that could just turn into a absolute animal. He, to me, could have a seat. He's like a Jacoby Ellsbury to me, right? Like, he's not quite as fast, but he's super athletic. He can hit the ball. He plays great defense. This is going to be his age 23 season. Dude, this guy's got a huge upside. And I think this is going to be his first year where he plays like more than 145 games. And it's just time. It's time for PCR to be part of this Cubs lineup for a long time moving forward. Give him an extension. Genuinely. I think he's that kind of guy. Matt Shaw. I'm up on Matt Shaw. I started off as somebody who couldn't even tell you his name, but I'm kind of in on Matt Shaw. And especially if you look at a front office that has this front office, for those of you who don't know, was developed professionally under Theo Epstein. And if any front office that Theo Epstein has hands on is high on a guy like a Matt Shaw, who is a corner infielder and is only 23. This is his age 23 season. He is going to be, I think, at least a 1 or 2 win above replacement level guy. And that's really all you can ask for from a player without getting surprised, right? He's a first round pick. So, I mean, his ceiling should be higher than that. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a couple 5, 6 WAR seasons. But yeah, definitely not somebody I'm sad about having to put at your corner infield position at third base for the Cubs. And then when you look at their rotation, because to me, the hidden gem of this team is their rotation. They have 6 guys that make starts, and they're Shota Imanaga, who I think is just so good. I love Shota Imanaga. He's so good. Justin Steele's this is going to be his age 30 season. Jameson Taillon's a little bit past his prime. He's at 33 years old. And then you got Matthew Voigt and Javier Assad, who I still think is very good.
He showed really good signs of life in the last year or so. I think they just need to give him more innings, quite frankly.
Yeah. I agree. I think just start make him your number 2, not number 2, make him your number 3 starter, like above Taillon. And I think you're just going to see this guy go and have himself a good big league season. A few wins above replacement, few WAR, and just a guy who's going to occupy a 3 or 4 slot in your rotation. He could do it for the next 5, 6 years.
Now, what I will say where I get worried, because I did open this up by saying, hey, maybe the Cubs here can, for the first year in a couple of years here, kind of separate themselves from a pack in a weak division. But here's where I get concerned about the Cubs, and where I get concerned with any team in their scenario, is their lineup looks really solid. But when you start looking at a injury-prone Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ had some issues in the last couple of years. Like, these guys start going down, their bench, not great. Like, you have to win games with your B squad, and I don't know that they can do that on pitching or in their lineup right now.
This is such a cold take. Not a cold take. This is a hot take. It's just nobody's going to like it. I think John Birdie's a big addition to this team. Guy's only got 5 years of service time, and I get that. But when you talk about a guy who can play basically every position on the diamond besides catcher and pitcher, a team that is introducing a guy like Matt Shaw, a team that has a slightly below average age, when you add a guy like John Birdie, who has been around for a little bit, he's been on good teams, he's been on the Yankees. To me, this is a guy that's like filling a clubhouse role. This is a guy who's showing up to the ballpark early, because this is a guy that fights for his position in the lineup every single day of the season.
Yeah.
I think this is the guy that sets a tone in a locker room. I have no idea what he's like in person. I'm genuinely saying that. But if I were to go out there and I were to pick, I mean, you guys know I'm the biggest Justin Turner fan in the world. I try to give him to the Seattle Mariners every single week, and he doesn't want to go out, and they don't want to sign him again. But I think that John Birdie, not to the extent that a Justin Turner, a guy who's really truly been there and done that, will do. But I think that a Justin Turner or a John Birdie or these veteran guys who are older, more mature, more apt to show up early, take their hacks in the batting cage before the prescribed batting practice, go take some ground balls in the infield to just show that, they're working out their craft, work for every single at bat that they take during a big league season. I think John Birdie is the kind of guy that comes in there and does that. Do I think he's going to get 500 plate appearances this year? Absolutely not. And if he does, there's cause for concern in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But he's the kind of guy that when he's sitting there, he's on the top step of the dugout for every single pitch of the game. And I think that that's a crazy good thing for a team, especially that is looking for development from guys like Pete Crow-Armstrong, like a Matt Shaw, and especially when the veteran leadership on this team in terms of starting pitching and as well as position players comes in the form of guys who are not from the United States. And nothing against Seiya Suzuki and Shota Imanaga. I just sang their praises. I love them. But it is not the easiest thing in the world to provide veteran leadership with things like language barriers and tact. So I think this is so stupid of me. But I think the John Birdie signing is not nothing for this Cubs team.
Well, I mean, he's a grinder. Every team needs grinders. That's an X factor trait right there. And you heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Parker is the world's biggest John Birdie fan.
I might be. I genuinely might be, and that comes from a place of like as a Red Sox fan, you hear all the time if you're on like socials and stuff like that or listening to podcasts that Rob Refsnyder is one of the biggest clubhouse leaders for the Boston Red Sox, and he is the every other day platoon bat outfielder, which is exactly what John Birdie is going to do all over the diamond for this Cubs team. If you can get him bought into the system, and a kind of guy like him who, dude, he's 35 years old. He's only got 5 years of service time. This guy loves the game of baseball and just loves the fact that this is his job. He gets to play 81 games this year in Wrigley Field. And I think that a guy like that who loves the game that much is going to really let that get to his head and become just a positive force in the clubhouse. And you can't understate what that means to a team.
Well, wait until John Birdie finds himself on the A's. Then we're going to have a real party up
Dude,
there.
if John Birdie ends up in A, I'm buying a jersey.
Not even
we talked about this,
Don't
though.
go
We
crazy.
talked about this. The
A
algorithm
jersey.
wants us to be Dodgers fans, and we're going to be Dodgers fans.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to just be very honest with you guys. We're getting a shit ton of views on the Dodger content. I told Parker by the end of 2025, we may be a late night Dodgers show. That's just
Late night Dodgers.
Sorry.
That's what it is. I'll buy a jersey. I don't care. I don't give a shit.
All right, let's move on from the Cubs. Let's go over to our friends in Pittsburgh. Let's go to the Pirates. So the land of Skeens. What are we thinking about the Pirates? Can they really take it to the next step here in 2025 with their main man, Paul Skeens?
Pirates fans are going to hate me.
Oh, shit.
I think this is a scenario where we are going to see Paul Skeens. This is just his first team. Like Mookie Betts, his first team was the Red Sox. And I think that we're going to see, there's nothing I want more than a Paul Skeens Cy Young campaign this upcoming year. Like, I'm telling you that right now. I'm going to stop talking about the team from a Paul Skeens perspective because it's just going to depress me, because I genuinely have a soft spot in my heart for the Pirates. I love the Pirates. We have a mutual friend, JG, who is a massive Pirates fan. He loves Pittsburgh sports. I love Pittsburgh sports just in the fact that they have color coordination and they all love each other so much.
Totally.
But I think that there is some upside. There genuinely is some upside in this Pirates lineup. When you look at guys like Brian Reynolds, who's around to stay, like he's going to be here for a while. You look at a guy like O'Neal Cruz, Kutch is back. I still like Joey Bart as a player. I think he's a good catcher. I think he's got more offensive upside than your average catcher. And Brian Hayes is still on this team. That's a non-zero lineup. Like, that is a pretty okay lineup. It's a little right-handed heavy. You've only got 3 lefties and a switch hitter besides all the rest of the righties. So it's a little right-handed heavy, but it is what it is in today's game. I like the lineup. I think it's not terrible. They just signed Adam Frazier to basically give him the commissioner's trophy already, because Adam Frazier is going to really change the face of this team. But just in terms of the lineup, I won't talk about the pitching just yet. I'll give you your chance to talk, but I think that the lineup's okay. I think it's okay.
Well, that's the problem there, Parker. I think it is just okay. I mean, one of the things I look at when I look at kind of lineups and start to project these things out, to me, I love looking at um, WRC plus, weighted runs
Right.
created plus. I think that tells you a lot. It's a great stat. It's an all-inclusive statistic for looking at lineups. And what makes me kind of parrot what you're saying about them being okay, you look at their lineup. I mean, of 9 guys, only 4 of them are over 100, and they're not even that much over 100. 114, 115, 119, 101. Like, you, you can't have that. You just can't. They are exactly an okay team, like, by definition. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you an example. Brian Reynolds, 114 WRC plus.
Yeah.
O'Neal Cruz, 115. Could those guys get to 120, 125? Absolutely.
I think O'Neal Cruz's ceiling is a 140 WRC plus if he finally figures it the fuck out. You know, like I think I love O'Neal Cruz. Remember, he was the original Ellie de la Cruz.
Yeah, true. That's true. Now, here's the issue. The issue is, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, is it's a conversation of floor versus ceiling, right?
Mm-hmm.
The floor is not very high. The ceiling on this team could be very high, but I don't have a high floor.
O'Neal Cruz is like a negative 0.2 WAR season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I agree. I'm with you. I think if everybody performs to ceiling, and I think for this division, I'm kind of taking that stance where everything's performing to ceiling. Pretty good lineup. Now, one of those players you mentioned with above 100 WRC plus is Andrew McCutchen, who put up by I don't know if this is projection, but on FanGraphs on Russell Resource, he's a 105 WRC plus. He's not going to put that up this upcoming season. Andrew McCutchen's going to kind of be a liability this year, but there's no way in hell that you don't play Andrew McCutchen every day that you can if you're a Pittsburgh Pirates manager, because he's Kutch and he belongs to Pittsburgh.
So yeah, you were looking at the 2024 WRC plus for Kutch, but even the projection for 25 is 99. I mean, if he's doing 99, 100, I'll take that.
Take
Kutch
that
right now.
Yep. Absolutely. It's a guy who can put up a professional at bat. And I think that's slept on. There's no stat that will put that into perspective, but a guy who can just make the pitcher throw 2 more pitches every at bat than the rest of the lineup is genuinely very valuable. And a guy who can clubhouse, like I talked about clubhouse leadership, John Birdie. If I'm giving John Birdie flowers in terms of clubhouse leadership, there is nobody in the world who will be better in a Pittsburgh clubhouse than Andrew McCutchen, especially during FurryCon.
That was not what I was expecting to come out. Do
you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Can you explain it to the folks, please? Because you just confused a lot of people.
Okay, Andrew McCutchen hits the fucking shit out of the ball during FurryCon. I don't know what it is, but FurryCon's in Pittsburgh, and every single year during FurryCon, Andrew McCutchen tweets one word, and it's the word furries. And every single week of FurryCon, for some reason, Andrew McCutchen hits the shit out of the baseball. So make sure he's in the lineup every single day that week.
I'm not sure what's better, that or Nick Castellanos hitting a home run in every shitty situation known to man. I don't know if I can pick.
I love the Nick Castellanos meme, and I track it, man. Like I'm like, every time something bad happens, a celebrity dies, I'm like, let me go check Nick Castellanos' line for today. Without a doubt, he hit a home run, man.
We got to get our own tracker for that this season. Oh, that's funny.
I'm sure there's a Twitter account out there doing it.
Oh, I'm sure. You briefly mentioned their rotation. Obviously, Paul Skeens heads that rotation. We have Mitch Keller and Jared Jones, and then right now it looks like FanGraphs has projected Bailey Falter and Johan Oviedo, and there's definitely a lot to be desired on the back end there. I think between Skeens, Keller, and Jones, not terrible, though Jones did fall off after he had a great start last season. So it does make me wonder kind of what they do going forward here. Now, your Paul Skeens' point of him not being around this Pirates team for very long, that is very reasonable. For our Pirate fan friends, if there was ever a time for them to start building this team, God damn it, it needs to be around a Paul Skeens. It just does. And if they botch this and they don't start doing that this season, over the next 2-3 seasons, building this team up around Paul Skeens, what are we doing, Pittsburgh? Like, just wave the flag at that point.
Didn't they extend Mitch Keller? Isn't Mitch Keller on the long-term deal with this team?
Let me check.
While you look that up, I'll speak to it. So if there is a three-man group to build a team around, it is a rotation that includes Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, and Jared Jones. These guys, now, Jared Jones has popped up in trade talks over this last year, and it's like, it fucking sucks, man, because that's the most pirate shit of all time. And nobody wants to see it. I don't know that there's anybody who like straight up hates the Pirates. I think everybody's like, oh, cool, baseball's better when the Pirates are good, because it's such an avid fan base, and like Pittsburgh sports fans love their teams. We've seen it with the Steelers, and we've seen it with the Penguins. We know what happens when there are good Pirates. We've seen it with the Pirates when they were a playoff team when Kutch was first there.
Also, PNC Park, I've been there. It
the
is
most beautiful
stunning.
Park in Major League Baseball.
Stunning.
It is beautiful. I can't believe I have not had a chance to go. But it PNC, Camden Yards, and maybe Dodger Stadium are like the three most gorgeous ballparks in the world. It's so beautiful.
I have a story. I have to tell you a baseball story. So,
okay.
All right. So my wife and
Dude, it's our podcast. We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Hell yeah. Everyone just shh, story time. Anyway, so my wife and I, we took, I can't remember if, no, this was, we took a trip to the East Coast, and we decided to hit up a bunch of ballparks because we wanted to visit all of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I know. So this one trip, we went to Cleveland, we went to Cincinnati, we went to PNC and Philadelphia and a couple others. So
okay, one of those was on the East Coast, but go ahead.
No. Oh, all right, smartass. We headed to the East Coast and hit up some good ballparks on the way. But PNC Park, we went to PNC Park. We were first row on the third base line. And so, of course, you get that close to the ballpark, or that close to in those seats, you get next to like season ticket holders. So we had this guy we were sitting next to. I'm talking about like he had to be 80. Like this one of those been here for years guy, had baseball stories. He kept chatting us.
He was
up.
at the Bill Mazeroski home run.
Absolutely. Like this guy laid a brick at this place. But here was the problem. This guy is talking, and he's a spitter. And he was spitting all over my wife, who's sitting next to him. I had to switch seats and take. I didn't have a fucking poncho or anything. I had to switch seats, and this guy was just talking to me and kept spitting on me. Like you could see drops on my hand, Parker. It was gross.
Did you like wait for him to use the bathroom, or was like, hold on, dude, you're spraying all over my wife. Let me swap seats real quick. Like, how did this happen?
No,
I need to know.
It was literally just like without saying much of anything, eye-to-eye contact. We're like, all right, switch. I didn't know what to do. I don't want my wife
text
sitting there
each
being
other?
spit on. No, we just like, she gave me that like side, like, oh my God, look what's happening. Like, look, and I'm like, weirdest baseball experience I've ever had. It was a great experience, other than I had a freaking sprinkler next to me, and it kind of tainted the whole experience.
That's awesome. Not for you. Not for you. That's just a good baseball story, though. That's cool. Pirates fans are like that. There's this really famous Pirates fan that like wears this Pirates jacket. I think I've seen it on MLB Network a few times. Though people like that, man, they deserve more. They've seen so much. They've watched so much not good baseball, that they really just build around this 3-man rotation. I would absolutely love if tomorrow they announce Paul Skeens' 14-year extension. Boom, done. Send it. $300 million, 14 years. It's not going to happen. Will never happen, but
no,
it'd be great. It would be great.
All right, let's wrap this up here. Let's go to our friends in Cincinnati. Let's talk about the Reds. The Reds, man, I'll tell you what. It's not just only because of Ellie De La Cruz. Obviously, we're big Ellie fans here on the show, but they're just a really fun team to watch when they have.
I love the Reds, man.
Like the 2023 Reds were super fun. I hope they bring that back in 25.
I could not possibly be more high on a team than I am every single year on the Reds, basically ever since Ellie and Jonathan India and like Hunter, like those guys. I'm so on board. I went to that ballpark, absolutely incredible ballpark. If you've never been to the Great American
Oh
Ballpark,
yeah.
definitely one of those ones to put on your bucket list, just for the fact that it's super historical and it's got those awesome light cages up and just a great place to watch a ball game. I watched I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, but I watched the Padres with like none of the cool Padres people. Like Machado was benched and like Hosmer was like on the IL, and it was just not a great day to go watch the Padres, and that was what got me in the ballpark. But I did see Johnny Cueto. It was a good time. It's a good time to go watch any ball game in Great America Ballpark. So go see it. The Reds are one of those teams for me that I am just waiting on it all to happen. It reminds me a lot of like the White Sox window that we all thought was going to open. But when you look at their lineup, it's pretty, I guess I'll just say encouraging. No Jonathan India this year, but we've got TJ Friedel, Ellie De La Cruz, guys who a couple other guys that are going to probably put up numbers. Loved Spencer Steer, Heimer Candelario, Gavin Lux, Austin Hayes. All these guys are in this lineup, man. And to me, that's a lineup that has upside. It's another one of those is the Cubs lineup we were saying, but either way, it's another one of those lineups where it's like, you kind of got to go off of the ceilings to have much hope, but like,
right.
The ceiling for a guy like Spencer Steer is there. He's in the prime of his career. This will be his age 27 season. So like, now's the time. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this depends on kind of what we talked about. I remember if it was last week, the week before, but you had Ellie De La Cruz have an MVP season. Like if these guys can be at kind of 100 to 105 WRC plus at minimum, and Ellie's having like a 5-6 WAR season at minimum, maybe things get really interesting for Cincinnati. I think the big issue for them, I would say, is probably the bullpen. Bullpens are weird, Parker. You know, I'm about to take a tangent here, but bullpens are weird, man. They're so volatile. And bullpens are the most uncertain thing in baseball. And I feel dumb even just saying, oh, the problem's the bullpen, because guess what? Any year, unless you're the freaking Dodgers right now, any year your bullpen could be a problem, because that's how just back and forth these things are.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like the great X factor as it pertains to success of an MLB team. And when you look at this Reds bullpen, I mean, their closer is Alexis Diaz, who's the wrong Diaz to be closing games for you. No offense to him, but he did have a 3.99 ERA, a 0.3 WAR, and 28 saves last season. The 4.95 walks per nine, man, is just not something you want from the guy closing games out for you. They did just acquire Taylor Rogers today from the Giants, so good for them. That's a good late inning option. You could see, I genuinely would not be surprised if he is their closer this season. And there's names in this bullpen: Emilio Pagan, Brent Suter, guys you can give the ball to and have some kind of confidence that they are going to get ball players out. But like, when three of your projected players in your bullpen right now have over a 4.5 ERA in 2024. Oh man, that's a little scary. I mean, you need a guy who can eat innings in games you're already out of, but having three of those guys is not really something everybody's looking for. And I don't know that ERA is the best statistic to go ahead and look at when it pertains to relievers, because ERA gets screwed over in one outing. But I don't know, man. Even the ERAs aren't entirely encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, the Reds, what I love about the Reds is I look at what this team could be in the next couple of years, and quite frankly, what they could have been this year. Like, this team is estimated at 25 payroll at 116 million, and you look at some of the guys they still have. It's
so cheap for what they have.
It's so cheap. Pre-arb, Spencer Steer, Will Benson, Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Edwin Encarnacion Strand.
Christian Encarnacion Strand. I did.
Christian Encarnacion Strand. But these guys, like, why don't you go out and add 40 million to that? Get your payroll to 150, add some really great pieces, and make a run for it. Like, this is the time for them to do that. And it's just infuriating. They have a team like this that if they put even 20, 25 million on this roster, you could fortify this.
I agree. I mean, this is the easiest roster in the world to improve on. You have a lot of young talent on this roster. The thing that really is setting them back a little bit, and they're going to have to play some juggling around with this lineup to make it fit. When you have Spencer Steer and Heimer Candelario on the same team, it blocks a guy like Christian Encarnacion Strand. He's a first baseman by trade. He's probably, those three gentlemen will probably switch around a lot, including the DH position. So we're going to see all of them basically get a full seasons of at bats. I would assume. You may even seen them play, all of them play 2 on 1 off, especially being that Heimer Candelario is a switch hitter and you can just play that game of who's platooning that day. So I will be interested to see how that plays out. But when you talk about, like, right now, Fangraphs on their roster resource has Gavin Lux projected as the DH. Gavin Lux can play shortstop and second base. That guy can go out there and give you good defensive innings at both of those places. So Matt McClain needs a day off. Boom, Gavin Lux. Elliot de la Cruz needs a day off. He can go DH and Gavin Lux can play short. Like, I love that flexibility that they have in their roster, which might be the most understated thing about it is the fact that they can have so many different people doing so many different things on any given day. And that's the type of situation a free agent is perfect for. Go sign somebody who plays one of those positions and let them play it every day, and everybody else flexes around them. So yeah, you're right. With a payroll like they have, just go sign somebody expensive, and it just makes this into a definitely wild card, if not division contending team.
Yeah, they're a team of Ben Zobrists is what they are.
A whole team. Yep, absolutely. I gotta agree with you on that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Zero.
All right, Parker.
0 votes.
Zero votes, but he got 2 votes right here, folks, and that's what matters.
He did. Yeah, he did. He definitely got one from me. Ben Zobrist is in the Parker Kirk Hall of Fame. I'll tell you that right now.
There we go. Parker, if you had to draw it up for 2025, how is this division going to fall for you?
So I alluded to the fact that I think that I won't say hold on, give me a second. I almost gave it away, but I think that a team is going to run away with this division. I think the Cubs are going to run away with this division. I don't think they're going to be a 100-win team. I think we're looking at like 95 to 96 wins from this team.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be enough to run away with it. Genuinely. I think that the Brewers are going to see a massive regression. I don't. And that's the thing. Like you said, they are the Rays of the National League, and they're probably going to prove me wrong and probably win 95 games because they are going to win those those games that are decided by 1 run. They're going to find a lot of those that they're going to win.
Yep.
But from the perspective I'm coming at it from, I just see a world where mostly because this is the Cubs season, they have to appeal to Kyle Tucker. They have to prove themselves for the signing of Craig Counsell as their manager. I just think the Cubs have too much to prove, and I think they have too high of a ceiling from guys like a Pete Crow Armstrong and from a Matt Shaw that I think they run away with the division, but in a way that's like they make it to the playoffs and are out in the DS. Like, if I had to be completely honest,
that makes sense.
So, okay. So I'll go down the rest of my lineup. I've got the Cubs at number 1. I got the Brewers at number 2. Cards, Pirates, and Reds, man. I think I would probably put the Reds at number 3 and then the Cards. No, and then the Pirates and then the Cards. So I got Pirates at 4, Cards at 5.
This is why we do this together, because all these divisions we're going to have the same fucking standings. So I had the same thing. Cubs, Brewers, Reds, Pirates, Cardinals, but I want to expand on a couple of these. Number 1, you are 100% right on the Cubs. They do have a lot to prove. I think their ceiling is the highest, and this is a make or break year for them. You don't go out and get the highest paid manager. You don't go out and get Kyle Tucker for 1 year to not get this thing going in 25.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I look at the rest of this, I do agree the Brewers are primed for a little bit of a step back here. I will go back to the Cubs for a second because you said 95, 96. I think that's super bold. I think it's likely they win this division with just as many wins as the Brewers won it last year with 93. I think that's more likely for them.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is when I look at all the divisions of baseball right now, this is probably the one where it could be a crapshoot.
It's wide open.
2 to 5 and maybe 1 if the Cubs don't come out of the gate hot, right? Like
Kyle Tucker hurts himself in the first month of the season. This division is wide the fuck open. Anybody could win this division.
Yeah, I mean, again, with those floors and ceilings being all over the place, like you never know. But I do like Cubs, Brewers, Reds, Pirates, and then the Cardinals kind of holding out the caboose there for obvious reasons. So I want to use this as a jumping off point for one of my bold predictions, and it is about the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, we both have the Cardinals in last place. And one of my predictions is that the Cardinals will only win 65 to
Holy
70 games, having their worst season, Parker, since 1995 when they won 62 games. Now, let me give you some frame of reference here.
okay.
Since 1995, 30 seasons have happened. They've won less than 81 games, so they've been under 500 in 5 of those 30 seasons. Okay? They are a highly successful team in the last
Second
3
most
decades.
winningest world championship team in baseball history.
Yes, yes. They have a sterling reputation when it comes to giving them fans good baseball to watch. Unfortunately, I do think this is the year we start to see that, like I said earlier, go in the opposite direction. And I think they're really going to struggle this year.
That is super bold. I will give it to you. You know what, though? I could definitely see it happening. Like, there's definitely a world where this happens, especially if their rotation does not pan out at the median level that we think that they're going to. I could totally see it. Like, what are you going to do when you don't have a guy that you can kind of count on winning 75% of his starts? And they don't have that, in my opinion.
No, no. What do you got? What are one of your predictions?
I actually have 3 bold predictions for this division, but I'm only going to give you 2. I'm only going to give you
Okay.
2 because one of them is going to ruin one of my season predictions, and I'm trying to stay away from giving away my awards season predictions because I think we're doing that episode in person at spring training.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So my first one is kind of a shot to the same Cardinals team that you just took a shot at, and that's that I think Ryan Helsley wins himself a World Series ring this year. But it's
With
not for the
another
fucking
team?
but it's not for the Cardinals. I think that
Yes.
whatever team gets Ryan Helsley gives themselves such a massive advantage moving into the post trade deadline and going into the postseason that he is a substantial difference maker. I don't see a guy who, like him, who is a closer, who is a very, very good lights out closer. I don't see him getting a ton of innings prior to the All-Star break and prior to the trade deadline. And I think that that leaves him in a great position to be a innings eater, absolute dog coming out of the bullpen for whatever team he finds himself on post trade deadline. I would not be surprised if it's a team like the Yankees. I would not be surprised if it's a team who's making a playoff run that was kind of a surprise and their only thing they need to shore up is a bullpen. Cleveland Guardians. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, Ryan Helsley wins a ring this year. That's my bold prediction number 1. Bold prediction number 2. Ellie De La Cruz is going to stop switch hitting either this year or before the end of next year. I think this is his last season switch hitting because the guy can't hit left-handed pitching for shit. I think he just starts hitting left-handed from here on out, and he's going to have a resurgence in a lot of the same ways that a lot of those guys who stop switch hitting do. And that he just gets to focus on one side of the plate. And I think that that's going to be really when we see him break out.
Man, that's a really good one. That is very plausible, and you know that they're going to want him to be wherever he's comfortable and wherever he's going to produce. And I'm going to tell you what, he's not the only player right now in minors and majors that those coaches and that development teams are talking to them about not being switch hitters anymore. It's starting to go away, this whole obsession with switch hitters. And
their
Ellie's
only
the prime
switch
example.
hitter, yeah, the only switch hitter that I am truly comfortable with them hitting from both sides of the plate, I think, in Major League Baseball right now is J-Ram. Jose Ramirez on the Guardians. I can't think of anybody right now that truly inspires the level of confidence that he does from both sides of the plate.
It's interesting.
Other than that, man, I just think Ellie would be so much better served if he just takes every single hack for the rest of his baseball career from the left side of the plate.
Wow, yeah, that's a really good one. I'm gonna drop you one more, and that is this one's gonna break some hearts and minds. And I don't mean to be such a ball buster today, but this is what I see. And I'm leaning on this because I get a sense, I get a vibe. I look at this team's history, and I just think they're gonna just drop the ball again. And I'm gonna go to the Cubs.
Oh man,
I think I know, and I think you know what's happening. Kyle Tucker will have a 30-plus home run 100 plus RBI season with the Cubs. He will test free agency. The Cubs will get outbid, and the Cubs fans will be crushed because
he's gonna make 100. He's gonna make $450 million, man.
$450 million, and I think that team has shown signs. I'm not speaking out of my ass. They've shown signs that they are hesitant to give that big money. I've seen nothing to indicate otherwise, and I think Cubs fans can find themselves in a really downtrodden place with Kyle Tucker.
I can do nothing but agree with you. I just don't see him being a ball player that sticks around for anything past this season. He doesn't, I don't know. He still seems weird in a Cubs uniform to me. He doesn't seem like somebody who's going to be in Wrigley for very long. I hope he has the best year of his career in Wrigley. I think that there's no more deserving fan base than Cubs fans. They are just spectacular. The ballpark's spectacular. I hope everything works out for them. I hope they justify the Craig Counsell signing. That's a big thing for me. I really think that I think that for the manager workforce as a whole, I think justifying spending big money on managers is important for every single manager in big league baseball. And guys like Craig Counsell, Alex Cora, who have made really good money managing, I think it's important that they win following those big contracts because I think they make a huge difference and they get slept on quite a bit. I think everybody thinks you could just put a nerd as your manager and it just works out. I have one more thing, and I know we're running long here. We're at an hour and 15. This might be the longest episode we've ever done. But I have a question for you, and we're not going to get resolution on this question, but it popped up to me earlier today, and this is completely unrelated to the NL Central. So if you're here for NL Central talk, you can go ahead and turn it off. But we're coming to a weird time in baseball history where we are seeing a mass exodus or soon we'll see a mass exodus in some of the most prolific pitching talent in Major League Baseball history. And I am interested to know who you think will garner a higher percentage of Hall of Fame votes when they hit the ballot. And the three names I'm going to give you are Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander, and Max Scherzer. Of those three, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any three pitchers in their league over the long span of their careers. Who do you think, and you can go ahead and rank them 1 to 3 if you want, who do you think receives the highest Hall of Fame vote percentage of those three pitchers?
Justin Verlander.
Really?
I do. I really think so. And this is, now mind you, Parker, I'm going off of the dome. I'm not looking at stats here.
Yeah.
Maybe I go and look and change my mind, but my gut and what I know about these guys tells me Justin Verlander is the top of that list.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to be honest. For me, it's a toss-up between Verlander and Kershaw, which is such a slight on Max Scherzer because
Interesting.
Yeah, because Max Scherzer might actually be the most dominant pitcher on a given day. If you had one start to prove it all, I think Max Scherzer might be the most dominant of those four guys. But maybe it's the screaming on the mound that really gets me. But I think when it comes to Hall of Fame percentage and guys who have this pedigree that just puts them in a class above others, I think Justin Verlander and Clayton Kershaw are the two guys that separate themselves from me. And I think it's the the postseason success, because we talk about things like Cy Young awards. Those are just regular season awards. MVPs.
Sure.
Justin Verlander has one of those, regular season award. Clayton Kershaw also has an MVP, regular season award. When it comes to postseason production, you'd be hard pressed to find a pitcher who has been more reliable in the postseason than Justin Verlander. And I think that's the guy for me that would get the highest percentage. If I had to rank them, it would probably be Verlander, Kershaw, Scherzer.
I could see that. I think that's totally fair. I do think Verlander's top of that list.
Granted, I think they're all above 90%.
Oh yeah, I think they all get in without a doubt. Let's agree there.
First ballot, every single one of them.
Yeah. That one bozo who didn't vote for Ichiro is not going to vote for either of them.
Nope.
So here's what I'll say though: is you bring up a broader point that I think we're going to spend some time on in the future here, and that's that after those guys, the way that we vote and think about Hall of Fame pitchers will drastically change.
Yeah, it will, because we won't have these guys that have these super long careers in Major League Baseball where every year was as productive as them. And we saw it on on display during this last Hall of Fame vote, because I genuinely believe that when it comes to peak 7 seasons in MLB, I think Felix Hernandez is up there in the top 3 for me. Felix Hernandez was far and away the best pitcher in baseball for a decade, and nobody could touch him. He was incredible, and he gave his team like a 90+% chance of winning the game every time he took the mound. But because he stuck around for so long, I think it really hurt his Hall of Fame. If he, like, I heard a take, I forget who it was. It was on one of my many baseball podcasts I listen to, primarily like Baseball is Dead in Section 10. Somebody said if Felix Hernandez had just blown his arm out 6 years before he retired, he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which, like, sounds super, super sadistic to say, but at the same time, oh my God, that's so true.
The recency bias, man, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Nobody remembers how incredible, like, Felix Day was a thing. I remember tuning in and watching Mariners baseball for years just to see King Felix pitch.
Man, no, I think you're spot on. It's gonna be very interesting to see how it plays out. That's why I get excited for like these young pitchers. Like, I want to know what Skeen's gonna look like in 15 years, what Skubal's gonna look like in 10 years. Like, maybe what we're saying could be entirely wrong. It could be. I don't think we're wrong. I think the data's on our side, but we don't know. Maybe
we don't. Paul Skeens, to me, because of the way he pitches, and I've talked about this ad nauseum about how he's not always trying to hit 103, but he can when he needs to. I think he profiles as somebody who's going to have like a very successful, like 15 to 20 year career, kind of like a Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, who's able to go out there and just give you really quality, hard throwing innings over a very long career. But all the rest of the guys in the big leagues right now that are young and looking to have really productive careers, I think they look closer to a Clayton Kershaw, where at the end of their career, they're going to be like, damn, man, my arm really hurts.
Well, I'll tell you what. Wow, we covered a lot of ground. And you know what? I want to go back to something you said back in the very start of this show. It was probably like 2 minutes and 30 seconds in. I despise the fact that you said that we don't market Michael Trout. I disagree. I think he'd be great in a Bengay commercial.
Really good on a Bear Aspirin and Bengay combo commercial. Get him in there.
And Kyle Tucker, don't worry, Cubs fans. We'll find a spot for Kyle Tucker. Like I said, I don't think he'll stick around, but I hear Los Angeles is great this time of year. So everybody's
really
going to LA.
Really good point I saw brought up this past week as well. And I know we're running long, but it's our podcast. We do what we want. The whole argument with the salary cap, I think over the last week, we have seen more evidence to negate the efficacy of a salary cap than we have ever seen in professional sports. And I think that has to do with the Chiefs making their 3rd straight Super Bowl and their however many Super Bowls in the first 7 seasons of Patrick Mahomes' career. I think it just comes down to having the right guy. So they've always had a salary cap for as long as any of us have been alive in the NFL. And then the other thing is Roki Sasaki. If you guys think that a salary cap will fix the Dodgers situation, I genuinely think that the Dodgers are just going to be good. They're going to be good for a very long time. And that is evidenced by the fact that Roki Sasaki chose the Dodgers for less money because he was going to be offered more. He was offered more money from other teams, and he chose to go to the most winning environment, and an environment where it's going to be 70 degrees for the entire season. And I think that that's just part about, playing professional baseball in Los Angeles, California. It just is what it is.
It is. And you can shit on the Dodgers for deferring all this money, spending $350+ million. But at the end of the day, Parker, it's about the fact that they're just a well-run organization.
Andrew Friedman is my number 1 GM in baseball for a fucking reason, man. And he's doing his job. Had to make sure we get that Dodgers clip in there for this week.
Yeah, of course, because really, what are we if not a Dodgers show here after, how many 20+ episodes? Folks, as I said out of the gate, please, for those of you who've been listening and been sticking with us for these first 20 or so episodes, man, do we appreciate you. This has been so much fun. You'd be doing us a huge favor if you leave us reviews wherever you listen to us, comment on our stuff, like it, share it with your friends. Get it out there. We're excited for what's coming in February and March here as we turn the page on January. and we're excited to do more division reviews and show up in spring training to give you some really good late night baseball content. So stick around. We're not going anywhere. And make sure you get us on YouTube, follow those shorts, follow those videos. We'll catch you next week here on Late Night Baseball. Take care.